I don't know if it actually started. According to this, it is starting. It looks like we're starting. Jesus Christ! Oh! So fucking mad right now. Whew! Okay. Sorry, guys. It took me about 26 minutes or so to fucking actually make this shit work. I
I'm
can't...
not seeing. Oh, let me see.
Please don't tell
Fuck.
me you're not seeing it. Oh my god.
Let me.
It says
Sorry.
YouTube
Sorry if you guys
is...
can hear me. We're. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
I exist? Do I exist?
Yes, you
Okay. Oh.
exist.
All right. Awesome. For some reason, it's not showing me my chat in the fucking
Okay.
OBS, but I could at least see it on the YouTube thing, which is fucking not convenient at all. But I'm not sure why my normal chat box is not available to me. Cool. So if anybody could chat out there, does it say it has any viewers? Just you, probably, huh?
Yeah. 5.
Yeah, five. Holy shit. All right, sorry guys for starting so goddamn late. Unfortunately, YouTube decided to be this fucking big old dickhead and caused me all sorts of weird fucking problems. And now I can't see my fucking chat box. I could see the chat when it pops up within my OBS, but my OBS chat box that I normally use to see the kind of shit you guys tell me is non-existent at the moment. And I'm trying to figure out why that is so that I can actually see it, but I guess that's not going to be something doable, so fuck it. Oh, but luckily I could see it via the YouTube browser, which is really annoying because there's a fucking delay on that shit too. And I can hear one of you playing, I think, my video in the background because it's echoing slightly. But regardless,
You're muted for me, but you
muted.
might be.
Magenta, am I
Yeah,
muted?
let me.
The stream? I don't know.
Magenta
It
is
was
muted herself.
okay. She's muted herself. Okay, I think I should be okay. I think it's just being stupid. Let me fucking finally get this shit started. Sorry guys, technical difficulties fucking made my life insanely difficult right now. And the worst part is I'm extra frustrated because it's very warm today. So I'm sweating like a fucking animal. And I have like 2 fans hitting me right now, and they don't seem to be doing much as far as that goes. I gotta go get my fucking AC out of where I need to get it out, but you know how that can be. Oh
Yeah, just so you know, above a certain temperature, above like 95, you're just blowing hot air on yourself. It can actually make you worse.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Now that I can't do much about that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that information. Hold on. Let's just go. I had a really good track picked out to listen to too, some music, and now I can't find the shit. So good, so good. I had to restart my comp, thinking that would fucking fix all this bullshit. But I think we're gonna be okay, guys. I think we're gonna live. Might have to cut it a little bit shorter than I'd like. We'll see. Just depends. Hold on, fixing some last minute bullshit because I have to restart everything. So aggravating, man. Like, there we go. Okay. Can I get that fucking music? Where the fuck is it? I had it a second ago. And of course, it's not gonna
You
be.
can always do without it. It's not fun for me personally.
I don't give a shit what you want. All right,
I
so
know.
there we go. Yeah, I know, because you hate music. I remember. Okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's the one. That's one of your features I will never comprehend, and I doubt Magenta ever could too. We both enjoy music thoroughly. Let's see here. Okay.
I'm enjoying some classical lately. I found like one song in the music chat that I really enjoy.
It's so funny. Like, can you explain to me what it is about music that fucks with you so badly? Because like, I don't understand why classical is any better or more entertaining than any other genre I like.
I mean, it's super subjective. I'm not like one of those snobs that
No, I
thinks
know.
that,
That's what I'm
all
wondering.
music
What's up
is
with
like
your
bad.
subjective shit?
It's
Like, what's going on with your
it just
hearing?
sounds fucking annoying. Like it's just grating.
It's so strange. Like, regardless of the tranquility it's exhibiting, or the regardless of the emotional intent of the song,
Yeah.
like, it
The
doesn't even
emotional
matter.
intent is the fucking worst. That's
Ah,
the that's like the bad part.
I'm starting to
And
think,
then like rock is like ugh.
ugh, like any
Yeah,
kind
ugh.
of heavy music, loud music.
Yeah.
Man, that's so strange to me. I can't quite figure out what makes you go in that direction. See, I can't. It's not showing me, unfortunately. There we go. Participants. Yeah, it shows me participants. I have no idea how many people are on. Okay, now I have 9 people that just wasted their fucking time listening to me bitch and complain. Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so since you brought it up, Cynthia, I want to know, like, does is it the sound of the music itself? Is it the way the music conveys itself, or is it the feelings it's trying to like put forward? Does it feel
It's
invasive or
both.
intrusive, like music itself, to you?
Well, it's like I am finding I enjoy TV shows more, especially lately now that I'm not like so fucking anhedonic.
Oh, a little less
Um
retarded. That's good.
yeah, pretty much. But like I don't know, most of it just sounds bad. It just sounds bad. It just sounds grating and
So it's
then
just
like
subjective. Like, it just sounds bad. Like, there's no intellectual reason for your dislike of most music. It just doesn't
no.
sound good to you.
No, it's like I said, I'm not a snob about it. I used to kind of be that way. I pick on my husband for his taste in music.
I'm sure it's trash,
By the
but
way, you're lagging a little bit, but
great,
um in
cool.
the well, I'm just trying to make sure. Am I like cutting you off accidentally?
No, you're not doing any of that.
Okay, cool. That's it. So what the worst part is just the way it sounds.
Okay.
The emotional stuff is usually worse. Anything with lyrics is usually pretty bad.
So you don't like
Um,
poetry either.
I haven't really tried much poetry like recently
It's not
when
a
I'm
drug.
not
You don't
just.
try poetry.
I don't.
I haven't tried poetry.
Um, I don't know. When I was young, I used to like Edgar Allan Poe.
What a fucking
That kind of
edge girl.
resonated. Eh,
Hey, Magenta.
I,
I'm curious. Do you have? Are you there, Magenta? Magenta. Oh,
you're
there.
muted
Oh,
if
yeah,
you
there
are
you go.
there.
I'm kind
And,
of
Okay.
yeah.
okay, Magenta. Do you have any, like? Because you're an even more. You're a bigger fan of music than even I am. As far as
Mm.
an important aspect of your life. And we're all Zoids here, and so I'm wondering, like, do you have any introspection, like, or not introspection, any perspective on this? Like, do you have any questions for Cynthia that are maybe more nuanced regarding her distaste for music? That maybe you would be better at wording, because music is not like, I don't think much about music all the time. Like, because she just says it doesn't sound good. Why is it that do you think that most music doesn't sound good to Cynthia? Like, what could it be theoretically that would make somebody not enjoy most music? That's what I'm wondering. I'm
I mean,
curious.
I definitely relate to what you're saying, Cynthia. It's like I don't like most music.
Really?
Like I have to dig through to find things that I actually like. Like, I think a lot of it just sounds bad.
Okay.
Um,
I'm actually surprised at that, because I see you like upvote a lot of random shit musically that we post on the server. So unless it's just Zoids have good taste.
but I
Agreed.
like, like for instance, I find things and I'm like, hang on, I think this is just like a complete rip-off of like this other artist, or like it's a really bad pastiche or something like that. And it just makes it sound like, it just makes it kind of unlistenable for me. And it, like, that's not because I'm a snob either, it's just because like I think the like original artist who came up with like a particular style or whatever just does it better, you know? So it's like, why would I want to listen to this other artist who's like just basically copying
Yeah, but
it?
that's what's interesting. You're giving me an intellectualized version of why you don't like most music. Cynthia is giving me a highly intuitive version of why she doesn't like music. So the reasons you guys are describing sound entirely different.
Yeah.
One's intuitive and one's intellectualized. It's so confusing to me.
I mean, music evolves from culture and from like what has been going on in the like. It's supposed to evolve in a positive way, you would think. I think it's just been ruined by
Ruined?
a lot of the newer stuff that comes out. Like it clashes too much. It's trying to put so many different cultures that were like so unique, and actually I do enjoy some like older type of music. I enjoy like older like African music, like stuff that's just sound without the lyrics.
So do you like
sometimes that's enjoyable.
Do you
When
like world
add,
music then? Like world music?
I actually took a class in world music. I like some of it, but not like the newer stuff. Not
Only the
not
white
like German.
peoples. No, I'm just kidding.
What?
I said only white peoples.
No, actually, it's the opposite. Like I said, I really like.
Cynthia's a music
like,
racist.
Whenever I say I really like something, it's like, oh, I can listen to this.
I
I
disavow Cynthia and her musical racism. I disavow.
Go ahead. I like what do they call that? Jamaican steel drums? The steel drum?
God, man, you know what's funny is I can't stand something like Jamaican steel. Speaking of well, not just steel drums, but like I can't stand fucking reggae, dude. Like in any way, shape, or form, any incarnation of fucking reggae, I have never been able to enjoy. Like ever.
I don't even remember what reggae is. Is that the stuff that's like from African American communities?
No, it's no, Magenta would probably be better at describing the technicalities of it. I just don't like. I've never listened to any reggae that I enjoy. Magenta, define reggae to Cynthia, if you could.
No, I remember now. Yeah, that shit annoys me too.
Like, there's just certain types of world music or very culturally specific genres that I think maybe I can't connect to, for whatever reason. Maybe it's the sound of it. Maybe it's the themes. I don't know. I'm not sure, but like reggae is just one of those that I can't enjoy. I don't know why. Maybe it is intuitive. But there are genres of music that I don't enjoy for intellectualized reasons. Like I can explain to you what about the music itself I do not enjoy. I could pick it apart and I can talk about it. Like especially if we're talking like hyper corporatized sort of stuff. Manufactured sort of music and shit like that. Like I
had to write papers for that.
Yeah, there's plenty of
I ended up writing a paper on K-pop and how
Lord Almighty
is, and like how the culture is so reflected in the music. The way that the music sounds, like the whole production process, it's this not to get too much on the topic, but it's all about their obsession with hard work and the collective over the individual, while also being like highly capitalistic.
So that's funny, man. So yeah, I've never gotten into K-pop. Like, I think when stuff just sounds highly corporate, or just manufactured, it's more of an intuitive thing for me. I can almost feel it. I don't necessarily go into the history of how it's constructed and things like that. If I do, it's most of the American stuff that I'm more familiar with. But yeah, why are we talking about music? This is my fault.
Because it's interesting. I wanted to read what Orf 400 says. Music is supposed to bring emotion to the forefront of the mind, so in a way, therapy for schizoid. And then they say sometimes I get fed up with music completely after a while of listening to it. Yeah. Even classical, it's like, okay, now this is grating. It's I don't know. I can intellectualize it if I want, but ultimately, it just sounds grating.
All right, we'll just take it as it is then. What the fuck was that? Oh, there we go. Sorry, I hit a button. We'll just take it as it is, though. That's a whole different thing of bananas. By the way, one thing I did want to mention is I don't know how many on the server saw it, but I do want to start getting more into some cluster A shit. I also want to get into some more questions and ideas pertaining to that sort of stuff and some of the similar what's the word? Similar traits that might exist between cluster A specific people. So I had put a commentary or a question in the server. If you haven't answered it or haven't commented, please drop it in the stream so I could read it about what you think of that. Like getting more interviews of people that have, schizophrenia or schizotypal. They aren't necessarily Zoid, just to see, just to have conversations so we can learn more about it. Because I know a lot of people out there have like issues in which, it kind of goes between those the same. Like there's some Zoids out there that have typal or phrenic. There's schizophrenic schizoids out there essentially. So and vice versa. So it's definitely something.
I've seriously considered like asking my mom or like gently introducing the idea that she's some sort of cluster A. Ever since I was introduced to schizotypal and schizoid more, I'm wondering if she's more schizotypal than full-blown schizophrenic, but yeah. She's a hoarder who she told me she recently left her house and for the past 6 months at least.
Well, that brings me to a segue, which is you said that you had gone through some weird psychosis shit recently. So I actually want to talk a little bit about that. I want to hear a little bit about it. But also, it's just interesting because even though I won't give it away, but you had said it was chemically induced partially. What I find interesting too is that I wonder how much of that is chemically induced and how much of that perhaps is genetic or associated to the fact that your mother is more than likely she suffers from some kind of psychosis-induced situations.
Yeah. So
tell us the story.
I'll start with saying like I've had psychosis that it was chemically induced, and I've had a bout of psychosis that it's really unclear why it started. Mm-hmm. If it started because I was put on antipsychotics, that's a possibility, or I was not getting a lot of sleep, but that lasted a very long time. That lasted for probably, I don't know, a few months to 2 years. It's really hard for me to even remember that time.
Okay.
But the other night, after not drinking for a while, I drank too much, I guess, for what my body can handle. I guess. I was fine, just like regular drunk person until then. And then I saw the cops, and there's a lot of cops around here. And I think it triggered something in me. And they were like talking to this guy, and I tried to drag him home. I went right up to him.
Wait. You tried to drag him home?
Yeah, I walked right up to him, and I was saying some weird shit I don't really
You don't
remember
remember
about.
much, man. That's unfortunate. I'm curious to what your rationale
Well,
there.
this is what I can tell you what I do remember and
Okay.
what they told me afterwards. So I was in a really bad state, and mixing alcohol with like too much alcohol with my conditions can worsen them. So I had a heart rate of 1 to 80 laying down, which meant it was probably way worse standing up. So they took me in the ambulance, and I thought they were going to dissect me. And I was like,
Whoa. You thought you were like getting Invader
bleeding.
Zimmed and everything?
Yeah, I like. So when you're psychotic, it's like the truth.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it feels like. Like, you know the truth, and nobody else can, and it's a like secret. Like the truth is the secret, and you're just fully convinced of that. And so I was like, they're going to dissect me because I finally know the truth.
Whatever that is,
and-
whatever that truth is. Like, you didn't know, you couldn't tell me what that truth could have been or is. You just know it.
Well, the truth was like, in that incident, the truth was that it was a conspiracy to eliminate every person that saw the truth, that they were trying to like eliminate the people that caused trouble, like anybody that caused trouble.
Of any kind,
So
or are you talking more like somebody that's
like being a social
divergent,
nuisance.
like a divergent individual, like
Yeah,
somebody that just doesn't
Yeah.
toe the line of some kind?
exactly. And I had that delusion when I was a teenager, when I had that psychosis.
And it happened again just
Yeah,
a few days
in
ago.
a worse, well, not in a worse way, in like a even more real way than the first time. And I thought that they were going to dissect me, and then as people changed, like as I remember like the staff in the hospital and
Yeah.
the ambulance that I saw, they would change, and so I started saying like they're gonna come in and they're gonna murder you for keeping me here and not letting them dissect me. If I got like any feeling that they were going to be okay with me and they were like trying to protect me, I would like yell at them that they were going to get murdered for hurting me. And then it's very strange because I feel like so much better and clearer thinking and happy to be alive since that happened, because it was a real feeling that I was gonna die, even though it was from psychosis. That feeling like still sticks with me, that I'm like happy to be alive. And I came to, and I was more aware, but I was still having the psychosis, and I was laughing and like, I'm so happy. I literally remember like yelling this, like, you're still here. I'm so happy that you're alive. And that when I woke up the next morning, I was happy to be alive, but I don't know, it still sticks with me, even though I know it's probably not true.
But
that
the
make
fact,
sense?
yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. When I've only had like maybe 2 psych episodes ever, like psychotic kind of breaks. The one I remember more vividly is one in which everything was terrifying, And it doesn't matter what it was. I was afraid of everything, and anything that it was even slightly strange or could be like would normally or could normally I could take in a strange or creepy direction, something that I could find unsettling. Like I would find everything unsettling. Like I would find some aspect of anything I was looking at or trying to enjoy highly unsettling and panic triggering. And but it felt real. It felt real. Like it felt super real. And regardless of and it was like this strange combat because like the Zoid part of my brain was going like, this is irrational, this is crazy, I don't think this way. It was going like, what is this, what's going on here? And it was like the only thing keeping me from like completely believing whatever nonsense was jumping into my brain. It was the only thing keeping me somewhat aware that it wasn't real. So I was still able to, insanely enough, function at minimal levels. Even though I had to, like, essentially, like, I could only do activities and things that didn't trigger some fear and panic response. And like I said, it was stuff that just didn't make sense. Because there were things, even when I was in my most anxious years, there were things that could trigger anxiety. But during this week of just fucking psychotic break, like everything could, like it didn't matter what. And like it could be like, I remember I went into a supermarket and they had like Marvel superhero balloons, right? Like they just had, you know, just like little kid shit, like Marvel superhero balloons. And for whatever reason, when I saw them, I just started thinking like about like body horror shit, because like the Hulk was there. And like I started thinking about all this body horror shit and like my body changing and shifting and getting deformed, and then like it being in agony and all this shit, and I was just start having a panic attack.
Yeah.
Because it would feel real.
It was a lot like that.
Yeah, it would feel real,
my worst nightmare. Like I have a lot of nightmares that revolve around being trapped, and like I never like run away, and then in the nightmares I just sit there and I don't do anything. And I actually had one a couple nights before that incident where I was in some sort of medical facility and they were experimenting on me in various ways.
Do you remember what kind of experiments? Like, do you remember anything about the experimentation? I actually like the details. Like, I know it's weird, but
no, it's fine. That particular one, I was in like an old-timey asylum with a lot of like space, and then they had started their like experiments and we fought them. We had guns, and then I still ended up trapped, and they were trying to do something with my jaw. They were trying to like measure things to see what I was like, and then they tried to put some sort of device in my mouth. And I remember I just sat there and I pretended like my jaw was fucked up and broken, and that so they couldn't do it to me. And then I woke up. But or 400 like described my experience pretty perfectly. Like I believed when I had psychosis once that once you knew the truth, you died. Hence why no one knew the truth. And that was exactly like the driving force behind my like fear of being dissected.
Is knowing the truth.
Not even just fear, just like I knew. Yeah, exactly. I knew the truth, and I was a nuisance, so I had to be eliminated.
Regardless of whatever that truth is, like you were the thing that must be removed because you become inconvenient to everyone else and everything else's existence. Yeah,
exactly.
It's so crazy because if you really, really think about it, like if you want to get into Zoid shit and real deep stuff, it all looks like it stems from the same shit, right? not being wanted, being neglected, being forgotten, being a nuisance, being an unwanted, discarded thing that must be removed, a stain on a shirt, and so on.
True.
And it's like
additionally,
crazy.
like that lack of control.
Yeah, no,
That,
control,
like,
yeah.
just being trapped was like it is my biggest fear. Like, it's what drives my nightmares.
Yeah, and never ask for immortality, Cynthia. Because you'll end up
Oh fuck no.
between a rock and a hard place, quite literally, at some point during that thousands of year lifespan.
Oh,
Yeah.
unless I knew that like hell was real and it was worse than here, I would never ask for immortality.
No, but what I'm saying is that even if hell was real, you'd end up in hell at some point if you were immortal. Because you would get stuck somewhere at some point. Like statistically speaking, you would eventually get stuck somewhere. Like whether it's 1,000 years or 5,000 years. You would get stuck somewhere.
Yeah, like my head decapitated and like spread out, and then I'd just be like
Pieces.
a head fully aware.
Yeah,
trapped
or
in
well,
the
I
dirt.
mean, even assuming you couldn't die from like even if like say you could regenerate like a la Wolverine, there's still the possibility that you can get stuck. Like what are you gonna do if you get your feet tied to an anchor and get dropped in the ocean? You can't drown.
I mean, that's the same as being in hell.
You can't
And
drown.
at least I could avoid hell for like a few hundred, if not 1,000 years.
Oh man, you better behave. If there's a hell, you don't want it to be that. But in any case, that's fucking interesting. Magenta, do you have any instances in which you've had similar sort of psych breaks where you felt like all these fears and anxieties became a literal truth, and it's almost like you couldn't be who you normally were or normally are, like you couldn't be as rational or as calm and collected about the situation as maybe you could because it's almost like some other part of your brain just hijacks you. I mean, is there any instances of something like that happening? Kind of like what me and Cynthia are kind of describing. Where insane, like literally insane thoughts become a reality in your mind.
I mean, maybe not to that extent, but I have like milder things, but more regularly. Like,
yeah, just
like
anything.
my brain will just hijack, and I'll literally believe like I'm the worst person ever, and like shit like that,
But you'll believe it, like you'll actually believe
Yeah,
it.
I've
Like
had
it's
that.
the fucking
Yeah.
truth, not like it. Yeah, it doesn't even feel subjective, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah, it just feels like it's reality, like
Like you're
it's
literally worse than Hitler because you don't know that if you were put in that position, you would be even worse. I've had that thought before. I had to excise it from my mind through some intellectualization, I guess.
Interesting. I don't know. See, because like, okay, here I'll tell you guys an example of when I've had those kind of fears. And what's interesting too is that I something like generalized anxiety disorder is probably something that many of us Zoids and maybe even you two prior to somebody giving you maybe a more Zoid diagnosis might have given you because of the amount of panic attacks or freaking out and so on and stuff that a lot of us tend to do. Even though it's not like it doesn't really translate the same way, say, panic induced behavior does in someone that's not maybe cluster A or schizoid specific. And so I remember there was instances when I was in my like early 20s in which I kept thinking I was insane. Right? I kept thinking I'm insane. I don't know if you were here for that stream where I played that weird cartoon where like it was like a guy saying you're not insane, you're insane. And so so I felt insane. But when I would sit down and try to rationalize and think about it and go, okay, and really kind of intellectually think about, am I really insane? I would go, okay, based on these parameters, no, I'm not insane. I'm not insane, right? And but there was times in which especially when the anxiety and lack of sleep and sleep deprivation and all kinds of shit would kind of collect, and then all of a sudden, I believed that I was insane, and so then I started thinking things like, oh no, what if like I become, I don't know, like what if I become violent, like in the near future, or what if I become some sexual deviant or something, right? Or what if I become self-harm, like start self-harming myself, and I have to hide it from my loved ones, or like my wife and my kid or something, you know? Like what if I start doing this? What if I start doing that? Like, so like I would start like creating these scenarios in my mind that would just be really over the top, like like and that aren't really normal to my typical sort of behavior, my issues, right? It's stuff that was just like, oh, what if I start seeing things and start believing things, or what if like something around me like feels real and then it's not, and I do something horrible, right? And so I started having all these thoughts, and the thoughts themselves felt like the fear felt real, but none of these symptoms were actually occurring, right? Like none of these things were occurring. It's just I was fearing and panicking over the possibility, and I thoroughly believed the part that felt like it was truth is that one of these things was going to happen. One of these things was going to happen, and so I was running through a million terrible scenarios of over-the-top things that an insane person would do, some completely psychotic individual would do, right? Or that I would lose my autonomy and become like this wandering schizophrenic or something, and I'd have to be institutionalized. Like, and then I would lose my kids, and like I would have all these like, or my child at the time, because I don't have these kind of this sort of anxiety-driven sort of psychosis sort of thoughts anymore.
See, I had those thoughts.
Yeah.
Since I was pretty little, like 9, 10, probably actually no, like probably like 7 or 8. That I was crazy, and then I think it just got fed into so much over time that I actually did start acting crazy in my teenage years. I was like a self-harmer. I was very suicidal.
I don't want to call self-harmers crazy. That's not fair. But
I feel like if anybody can use it, it's me.
Yeah. No, I get it. I just want to clarify that I don't think self-harmers are crazy.
They can be not crazy. I think the way that I did it was pretty crazy. It was pretty insane. I tried to die in like insane ways. I got this like idea that I was like, this was when I was pretty young. I got this. Well, I started like seeing into another dimension, like
that's
almost like
fun.
purposely.
Okay.
And then I got the idea in my head that I could be like somebody important. Like, okay. I got the idea that I was like Persephone, and that I needed to die in like a beautiful way. And keep in mind, I was pretty young, so like I don't want to spread this idea that
no, we're not supporting suicidal ideation.
No,
type stuff. No, we are not doing that. Continue.
But I got this idea that was how I got out into like a better way. And that was like the first time I attempted. Well, no, that was the second time I attempted.
Fascinating. See, like I can't say I share that experience because I've never attempted it. There's been plenty of times in my life in which I contemplated it, many times, but it's nothing I ever actually attempted. So, you know, I can't say like I get, and I'm trying to think of how or why I didn't. And usually it was because of personal obligations, also because I had the stubbornness, the spite in me, that made me not go in that direction or go too deeply down that path, because I've always been fueled by hatred of the external, or other people. And so it makes me think like they win, you know? And like it's just like this weird
Yeah.
thought of they win. If I go down that path, they win. I'm not gonna let them win. They're never gonna win. Fuck these people, right?
See, like
And that fuels
the
me to
thing-
not ever go in that direction.
Yeah, the thing that I think like drove me over the edge, or would, and this is why I like battled with like self-hatred and self-harm, like all of this shit,
Yeah.
was like, especially after that event when it was more clear. I don't know. I was like, well, maybe they're right, and I do need to be extricated from society. And like Magenta said, like maybe I'm the worst person, like the absolute worst person to have ever existed, and I just don't have the circumstances to act on it right now. So I have to die. There was a lot of like mixes of shit in there.
Yeah.
Of why I felt that way. But
And you
you
wanna,
know,
oh god, sorry.
go ahead.
No, it's just what the reason I wanna say something is that by the way, is my stream lagging? Because like I keep getting stupid warnings from YouTube, but it doesn't seem like anyone's telling me that I'm lagging or if it's having issues or glitching out or anything. So I'm thinking it's fine. But anyway,
I'm hearing you on Discord and looking at the stream. It seems laggy there, but
well, there's always going to be a
somebody
delay.
said that it wasn't.
There's always going to be a delay, somewhat of a delay, but I'm talking more like lagging, like if somebody's watching the stream itself and not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not getting. There's no lag between our communication, so we're good there. No,
Cool.
but
No lag.
no lag between us. I'm wondering if there's any issues with the stream itself, but hopefully there isn't. Oh, shit. I had something I wanted to communicate regarding what you just said. Anyway, go ahead and continue, Cynthia. Just continue what you were saying, because otherwise I'll remember.
Just that, like, there was a lot of mixed in bullshit with my suicidality, and if anybody's seen our like one-on-one stream,
Yeah, watch it. By
I forget
the way,
name
it's
of
on
it.
it's on my videos. It's under Garbage Queen. It's called it's a Zoid conversation. It's titled Garbage Queen's Cynthia, I think, or the Garbage Queen. Listen to it. It'll be really interesting if you relate to this sort of topic or these ideas. We had a really, really awesome conversation on that. Go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
so I had to excise all of that from my mind. I hope Magenta can too, because like, it's a really miserable thought to have that you are the worst person.
I've had that thought. Probably not to the degree, but like, you know, because the difference is I've had the thought, the self-hate thought, of I am the worst person, but because of my hatred, because my hatred for everything else is so much stronger than my self-hatred, that it would always go in the direction of, even if I am the worst, fuck it, I'm gonna be the worst to all of them. Like, I want to be the worst. If I'm the worst, then I'm the fucking worst. Like, it would just be like, I would just think like, if I'm the worst person on earth, I'm gonna stay alive as long as fucking possible just to spite the world. And until they kill me themselves, like, and that's sort of the that rage that would kind of take me in. It's so weird to say, like, I'm not advocating for anger problems or hatred. I'm not trying to say that, but for some reason, just spite has kept me alive for a lot longer than I might have otherwise been, I think. And the good thing is, I'm not any longer driven by spite. I have a lot of resentment and hatred toward the world for a variety of reasons, but I'm not. That's not what keeps me alive anymore. What keeps me alive now is the love of my wife and kids. Thankfully, that's a much healthier reason to be alive. Then
Yeah.
I want to burn everything down with me. If I'm going down, everything's going down with me. Type mentality. Because I essentially my mentality was very kind of, I guess what would in the current political climate would be considered like very accelerationist. It was just very like
Yeah.
it was very accelerationist sort of mentality. Maybe I had like over 10 years ago when I was like in my early 20s. It was just like anytime I saw bad news or something awful happen, I'm like, good, one more step toward this world dismantling and falling apart, and everything going post-apocalyptic and crazy, and I can finally be murdered in a desert or something. Like it's so bad. It was so fucking bad. That sort of thinking. And it would always gravitate toward that sort of thinking whenever my personal life was really confusing and difficult. And that's how it would translate in my mind. It was just like I would hit a bump in the road in my life, and it would just immediately spiral in my head out of control in a direction of like, I just want everything to burn. I want everything to be gone. I want to be gone with it. But I'm not going to be gone until the rest of it's gone. Like it's just this crazy thought, man.
Yeah, I've always had this thought of like, I hope the nuclear. I mean, like less so now. But like, I hope that there is like a nuclear war. I just want to be at the center.
I do not condone nuclear war on my stream. Dude, wait. You used to have that dream too? You used to have that?
Yes.
Dude, I used to daydream about being in the middle of a nuclear blast and getting disintegrated all the time.
Exactly.
Like that shit was like my go-to daydream. Or like I would used to have this daydream where like it would be a nuclear holocaust, and then I got to somehow survive it to watch it, and then once the earth exploded or something, then I got taken out. But I got to enjoy watching the complete destruction of all human life. It's so
fucked.
It's so fucked.
You say don't advocate for nuclear war, but you're
no,
basically
I'm
saying
just
the same thing.
no.
It's not a good thing. It's not a good thought.
A good thing.
Like,
and, you
can work through it.
Yeah, it's like Joker type thinking. Let it all burn type thinking, right? Fucking dumb Money. Like that's my best friend. He's always shilling his shit. I love it. Money is the only reason to keep living. The need for more. Fill your holes with the prosperity of a never-ending goal. Your holes. Just fill all your holes with money. Get the fuck out of here. So okay,
He's not wrong.
God, stop. Don't encourage him, please. So, and by the way, check out his channel, Dumb Money Media. He just put up a new little animation thing for anybody that likes economic doom and gloom. He is the channel for you. Any case, okay, this is I had my point. This is a really good one. It had to do with mental health as a whole. And okay, here we go. Okay, yes. Okay. So, like for example, all these kind of daydreams and all these thoughts and all these issues, right? Whether it's suicidal ideation, whether it's self-harm, whether there's different kinds of psychosis or whatever, well, self-hate, feeling like you're literally, like, not just saying you're the worst person in the world, but actually feeling like you are. All those things, I don't ever want to conflate those things with the cognitive complexities of what it's like to have sort of cluster A thinking, or some people call it autistic thinking. Some people, I call it, I have a different word for it because I think it sounds better. Here we go. This is my copyright, my word. This is going to be the word that's going to put me down in history, or the phrase is anomalous cognition. Okay, so I believe there's a difference between things like this sort of anomalous cognition and all these negative symptoms and all the shit we're talking about right now. I don't want to conflate those two things, because I believe that if you get a human being because of, even if it was trauma or genetic or whatever, but because we can talk about a little bit about autism sort of spectrum stuff. But my point is, any human being, all right, that has this sort of anomalous cognition, regardless of the reasoning for it, or if that person were to be put in the correct context, in the correct healthier environment, post trauma or whatever, in a situation in which they can freely think, freely be, feel connected to other humans in ways that are unconventional, right? But also not intrusive, say, to the everyday life of all the neurotypical individuals and stuff. Just to have a space and a place and a part in society or in the human experience that is different and acceptable. If you have those things in place or something like that, and you create some kind of environment that way, whether it's something as small as the server I have for Zoids or the channel or whatever, and I encourage, if you're fucking schizophrenic out there, but you're like, you really want to talk about that and your psychosis and your kind of interesting thinking, or you're schizotypal, but you're self-aware, make a channel, make a fucking schizotypal channel, talk about this shit, do streams, do whatever fucking else, do it. Like, because that stuff alone is not your negative symptoms, like, or the more poisonous parts, self-destructive aspects of your life experience. I think the reason those things turn into that is because you have nowhere to go, because you don't feel like you're a part of anything, because you feel separate, alienated, and completely isolated from the rest of humanity. And I'm not talking about physically isolated. Yeah, I'm a schizoid. I like to be physically isolated from most people. I don't like intimacy from other people. I don't need a bunch of friends. I don't have any social desires, right? So, but all that stuff doesn't equal I'm miserable. Okay? It just equals my thinking's different. My expressions and the way I interpret reality in a lot of ways is different, right? But it doesn't mean that I want to be completely like alone and completely disconnected from the rest of humanity in any way. No, it just means I don't want to be connected to the rest of humanity in what is considered conventional ways. So my point, I guess my point, my full point is we need to separate those things, right? We need to not, being a Zoid isn't, self-harming. It isn't, having, anhedonia. It isn't, the abolition. Like, I don't like to consider that to be like what it is to be a Zoid. You get me? Those are issues that we commonly have in association with how the world interprets and how the world, the external world, kind of deals with us. Whether it's family members or psychologists or society, whatever. That's where all the shit comes from. It's not the way you think.
What you're describing to me sounds more like the schizoid personality, that like once we get healthy, we're gonna have a schizoid personality, but the disorder comes in when you do have all of that anhedonia, avolition, and anomalous thinking.
Well, no, anomalous thinking is good. No. I like the anomalous thinking. That's my point. The anomalous cognition is normal for you. I'm not saying, and I'm not talking about like delusions and shit like that. I'm talking about how you cognitively perceive and interact with the world, how you learn, how you collect knowledge, how you interpret the world around you, what things you have to contribute intellectually, and so on. The way you experience emotion, the limits of that experience, so on and so forth. What you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. What life experiences are important to you, but others are not. All those things, I want to say, are just a way of being. That it perhaps is just natural to some. And that's okay. And it has a lot to do with what you've talked to me about like this idea of being broken, being not a good thing, or being And it's kind of been influenced a little bit by that, because I wasn't explaining well enough what the separation there, and I just wanted to do that right now because everything we were talking about was kind of reminding me of that. Sorry.
It's fine. I think I agree with you. That just thinking different it doesn't have to devolve into delusions either.
No, it doesn't have to devolve into alienation. It doesn't have to devolve into self-hate. It doesn't have to devolve into pure being an accelerationist or something.
Yeah.
You know.
I wanted to know because like,
I don't know. Maybe she's baking a pie or something. Oh, there she is. There she is. She's quite the baker. That's what.
I don't know. I don't want to ruminate too much and like worry about all the problems in the world, you know.
That's a good way to go about it.
That's fine. No, we weren't asking you to ruminate on the problems of the world. I was more asking like, what do you think about people like, I guess, me or Cynthia that seem to have trouble not being able to, I guess, ruminate on such things and have this kind of more external hatred or spite toward our fellow man, whether it was when we were younger or otherwise. Like, what your thoughts on that in itself are, not whether we're right or wrong or how terrible everything is.
Well, like, I did a similar thing for like 5 or 6 years where I'd just kind of like I'd just feel like I hate everyone, basically. Like I'd go outside and I know cognitively I don't hate other people, and I'd be kind to people and things, but there's just this like inner like it's kind of like a defensive feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to like protect myself.
Yes.
But it's like an outward, like it's like, go away. I don't like you. I wish all of this around me didn't exist. But that I just find that really tiring. Like I kind of get tired. I'm kind of getting tired of it, and like I guess like the past 3 or 4 months, like I've been trying to change that.
That's good. Oh, that's totally awesome.
It's a journey. Like it's not an easy.
No, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No,
an overnight thing, but it's just a heavy. It's a heavy burden to carry. Not burden, but a heavy feeling to carry.
Yeah, resentment, right?
Yeah, constant, like 24/7
yeah, resentment. Yeah, and I think all that resentment stems from, and I want to, because Blas Fantaven, says something interesting that I kind of want to tie it into that, is all that resentment stems not so much from, the thinking that's been produced or the cognition that's been produced within us because of the whatever caused the disorder initially, but the suffering that was endured. So like I kind of did I lose my stream? Oh no, I'm back. Okay. Okay, good. So like, for example, says, isn't anomalous cognition just a different way of saying neurodivergent then? And no, I think it's a bit different. When somebody says neurodivergent, what I hear is a individual that has a way of thinking that is divergent or different than what is supposed to be. Right? Or what is it implies to me that the thinking in and of itself is different in almost like a negative way. That it is not the norm, right? So, and I get it isn't, but
I mean, the term has kind of been reclaimed, though.
Yeah, I know.
Thankfully,
but the reason I like anomalous cognition is because it refers more to how we interpret the process of learning and collecting information and data, and then applying that data to the external world. So, in other words, I guess an easier way to put it is, because if we're talking schizoids, right, this might be different for different situations, but I think it's more applicable to cluster A's, and perhaps if I don't know enough about autism to discuss that, because I just don't. I'd have to talk to somebody. But as far as being a schizoid, or those or other types of cluster A's that are like high in the low, like abolition and anhedonia charts, because of the emotional disconnect and the social disconnect, and the disinterest in such things, our focus growing up, and our interests and our way of interpreting the reality around us tends to focus more on rationale and less on intuition. Because intuition usually comes with social intuition or emotional intuition, and if you're emotionally disconnected and you're socially disconnected, then you lack in that department significantly, intuition in and of itself. So in order to compensate for that lack of intuition, you end up leaning entirely on rationalization, analyzation, right, of your external world and situations. That's why many of us end up masking, because it's a form of mimicry or whatever. And because that's the only way we figure we can function in a society that requires certain types of behaviors that are intuitive to most people, right? And but it's not just when people talk about this stuff, and the reason I like to call it anomalous cognition, because it doesn't just affect. And this is kind of what I'm trying to theorize further and talk about more. It doesn't just seem to affect your social relationships or your personal interests. It also affects how you learn, right? And how you learn and how you interpret. And so if you talk to someone that's a schizoid and has been, and maybe they're in their 30s or something, like myself, or especially a guy like E-Man, who sometimes gets on here, who's about the same age as me, maybe a little bit younger. When you've lived your life in a specific way for a long enough period, especially into your 20s and such, you can no longer turn back the clock on the way you learn. The way you interpret reality is not something that you can turn that clock back on, because you've adapted. You've evolved in a completely different direction mentally than a person with normal human behaviors or conventional human behavior, or behavior that usually runs congruent with things that, and I know, Cynthia, don't get triggered when I say it, talking about evolutionary psychology, right? So, I was just kidding, Cynthia. I know you won't, but it's, you don't like that thing too much. But my point is those things, right? It's almost as if a lot of cluster A's, because they're socially and emotionally disconnected, they don't fall in line with what some people argue we're genetically predisposed to behave like, right? Or to be motivated by.
Yes.
And so because of that reason, we are a variant of human thinking that is anomalous. It is different. It is not the norm, but it is useful. And it can be applied. And the reason, maybe anomalous cognition is not the best word. It's just the word I like. I like the word anomalous. But there might be a more PR-friendly word or something. But the idea is that we developed, a lot of us, a different way of interpreting the world that could be used in a practical sense, in a practical way. That isn't just connected or has to do with things like delusions and self-harm and anhedonia and things of that nature. I think a lot of that stuff can be treated. There is no way to treat, and nor would I advocate to, or would I say one ever should treat, or in any way, your cognition, the way you learn and the way you interpret, based on the information you're intaking, like the objective, quote unquote, information you're intaking from the external world, right? So, yeah.
That
I lost
yeah,
all
I
the
completely
viewers.
agree. We're not
I lost
gonna...
all the viewers. I love that. I started getting into all this theoretical
No,
shit and like fucking dropped like 5 people.
you still... Yeah. The,
This shit's
the,
boring.
I want to go back to the intuition piece that you said, because I feel like I know I'm highly intuitive, but I know that it comes from this studying from the outside world. Like Tito said, uh, you know, I learned how to mask by actively studying others rather than knowing and reacting intuitively. And that's what I did, but now it's automatic and intuitive, and there's a lot of things that I've studied that end up just becoming intuitive rather than needing to say memorize. I don't have a very good memory. It just comes up very automatically. Perhaps that's not true.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Intuition?
I don't know if that's intuitive or just kind of an automatic way of thinking. I don't know if that's necessarily intuitive. It's because like it sounds like that all of that's internal.
I just make like I have a very intuitive sense of like patterns. So once I've studied a certain thing, the pattern matches up and extends in a very intuitive way.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe it is. Maybe you saying that that we lack conventional intuitive behaviors or something might be a weird way to phrase it. Now that you say that, maybe it's because we develop different types of intuitions. So there might be a possibility that we are intuitive. There's just the intuitions aren't what you would call social or emotional intuitions. They're intellectual intuitions or learning based intuitions or something, or analysis based intuitions.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I know a lot of people hate this, but I'm pretty big into like MBTI and socionics, and I've noticed that most schizoids are some type of INT of some sort. There's some ISTJs.
Apparently, I took a test on a stream. I'm INTX, according to somebody.
Yeah.
Which I'm 50-50, which is, I guess, really weird and not conventional or whatever.
If I had to guess, at least in like socionics, you're probably INTP. But
that's what I know. I took some fucking test somebody recommended. I got a straight 50-50 at the end with J and P. But I'm probably more P than anything. Oh, the Taito art. I like this. we are the new AI, artificial intuition. Maybe we are AI of some kind, but maybe we all are if we're talking, if we want to get into the whole fucking simulation theory. But yeah, like I want to view it in that way, and I think that's kind of like the white pill that could help a lot of us Zoids and cluster A's and stuff see a separation. And I guess maybe that's like it's kind of weird. Like I feel like I'm starting to, like, the more I do this, the closer I start getting to finding that thing that I'm looking for, like the core essence of what I'm striving for. Because I feel like I'm pushing towards something by doing this channel on the server and everything, and it keeps growing. It goes from like, okay, relatability and stuff, and then it turns into context and adventuring into uncharted territories, and then it's turned into this idea of anomalous cognition, right? And now, like, where my brain is going, like where it's going, chitter chatter, is this separation of that and the negative symptoms. So the idea of treating a cluster A's negative symptoms and then nurturing their anomalous cognition, as well as helping them be in a place that's positive, that they could use. Say if you're schizophrenic and you have like situations in which you have psychosis and hallucinations and things of that nature, perhaps treating the negative symptoms can allow that person to make use out of some of those positive symptoms. Not positive as in like they're good, but positive as in they're more active. Like it's a don't confuse it. Not you, Cynthia, but anybody that's listening. I'm not saying they're good. It's not good to have hallucinations, but they're referred to as positive symptoms. And because,
the thing that the thing to add on, at least what comes to my mind, is when people are treating schizophrenia, they use medication that only treats the positive symptoms. And mixing in other medications tends... this is just personal experience, but it doesn't work because the medications are kind of working against it. So they're trying to treat the positive symptoms only, and the only way to get through the negative symptoms is by digging deep. And I think you're correct in that digging deep into those negative symptoms and the positive way of looking at the anomalous way of thinking could be more helpful than just focusing on stopping the hallucinations, stopping the positive symptoms, which are destructive. Like they're not good to have.
Well,
the schizophrenics I have met, like they, even when they're more lucid, they have very interesting ways of thinking that if you just tweak them a little bit, they could be beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I think that the reason, I think they're, like I said, I'm no psychiatrist, so I don't know the chemical underlying issues of how this could even function, right? But this idea I'm kind of proposing, as well as you see, my brain did another connection. It does this, like I explained it in other streams before, where it just goes bananas and makes these weird. And the connection I made right there is the possibility that the negative symptoms are shaping some of the self-destructive or harmful aspects of the positive symptoms. So, in other words, if you were to treat the core issue, or the core scar, or whatever you want, the core wound of the individual, and help them treat and move past the pain and suffering that they endure that might have caused their way of thinking that's developed like it has, then perhaps something like a hallucination will actually translate into something less destructive. So I'm not saying that's what would happen. It's just an idea, because it reminds me of, and I know a lot of people reference this film all the time, but it reminds me of that movie, A Beautiful Mind, right? Everyone knows the story of that gentleman. I forgot his name.
John Nash.
John Nash, okay, right? The story of John Nash, right? So what it reminds me of is this idea that when he came to terms with what he had, right? And he started getting treatment, and probably, they didn't display it in the movie, but probably getting the type of treatment that maybe started hashing out and dealing with what was causing him to have the hallucinations that he was, or causing him, not just on a chemical level, but causing some of the negative symptoms that existed within him that were mayhaps creating hallucinations that were more destructive than not. And because by the end of the film, or if you know his story, the manner in which his hallucinations are described later in life are a lot less destructive, and he was able to cope with them, and he was also able to interact with them in a way that was healthier. And so, if your hallucination ends up being less destructive, or the voices in your head end up being less self-hating, or less spiteful toward the person that is experiencing them, then perhaps having such an issue wouldn't be as horrific. And like imagine if you will, right? In the case of Nash, you know, he would see full blown hallucinations of people that didn't exist, right? So he was seeing like full blown hallucinations of people, and he was hearing in his mind and seeing things that just didn't exist in physical reality, right? But imagine if you could do that, right? Imagine, and I'm not trying to what's it called, romanticize fucking schizophrenia or anything stupid like that, right? It's just an idea. Imagine if that voice or that individual that exists outside of yourself stopped doing stops being destructive and started being constructive, right? Imagine if it became an extension of your own psyche that was actually useful and constructive. And you would literally have another person that's still you, to bounce ideas off of. Or if it's different parts of your brain, it's manifesting. Perhaps a part of your brain that's a little less accessible to you on a conscious level. That you can.
That would be the ideal, right? Like to integrate this thing that I think, and again, this is just personal experience. I don't know shit.
Yeah.
But if you were able to integrate that back into yourself and just acknowledge it as a part of yourself, I think you discussed it with was it on Money Media, or was it somebody else?
No, it was probably Burger Krieg. Because he's a German gentleman that's schizophrenic. I've already done
schizophrenic, yeah. So,
but he's like he always describes it in more mild type forms of schizophrenia. He doesn't have like the super heavy.
It's in his head.
Yeah.
It's more integrated as a part of himself, and I don't know if he's kind of realized that. He seemed pretty self-aware.
Yeah.
But you can.
Go ahead, sorry.
You can talk to those voices. I mean, again, this is just personal experience, and I don't think I ever had full-blown schizophrenia, but I was diagnosed with it. When you speak to them, when you intellectualize shit, when you learn that it's just you. I mean, it's just you. It's just you alone. It's your own brain creating all of these things around you. It can be enlightening, and then it becomes reintegrated.
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm just reading some of the stream chat shit because sometimes people post shit on there. No, reintegrating that aspect of yourself in a positive way is what I think is very important. And I think that a focus on the treatment of the negative symptoms and the scar, the actual suffering, the human suffering of that individual will benefit them greatly. Instead of trying to treat or cure or whatever the positive symptoms themselves.
Yeah.
As the primary focus. I think
the psychosis itself can be highly traumatic as well, and that probably needs to be treated like a trauma, like a PTSD type or complex PTSD type situation on top of that.
Yeah, because it's interesting because like this is where it gets a little complicated, because in some instances something like schizophrenia can develop in a well-balanced person, right? Like early on, like it could be a kid that had like a normal childhood, didn't have any specific trauma or anything like that, right? But the growing up with these thoughts and these hallucinations and auditory and so on, and the way that the world around them interprets that or treats them or tells them or so on, could cause further trauma that when they do have psychosis, that the experience becomes further, like further forms of suffering that will then cause that PTSD. That will, as they get older, start developing other symptoms such as, anhedonia and avolition, things like that, in them. When, if placed in the right context, environment, and understanding, they might have not developed those negative symptoms. And they might have helped nip it in the bud as far as like treating the trauma, treating the suffering they're enduring of not understanding what's happening to them, and not so much treating the what is going on as far as like treating trying to get rid of the hallucinations themselves. I think is what I'm trying to say. 1 second, please.
Yeah, and who? Okay, I'll just speak. I don't know if you can hear me. Who knows, like, if we're on like some sort of new path or whatever, but or maybe we're like not. The field of psychology is so ever evolving. So, we might just be full shit. We might be really onto some new path. It's really unclear. The schizophrenics I've met that seem to be self-aware seem to kind of agree with this take. So, just more anecdotes and thoughts.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Kids
It's
like
cool.
to,
I was just rambling.
Nah, dude, it's just like kids. Even when you tell them you're streaming or you're doing something, they're just like, and you tell them, "Oh, we'll hang out, watch TV, or do something after." Like, at this time, they're like, "I'm bored. Can we do stuff now?" It's like, no, I can't right now. It's not like I said we're not gonna. We're going to. Just give me some time to do it.
They don't have a sense of time though.
No. It's I'm bored right now. Can we do something now? Are you done? Oh man, I love it.
With age that comes, you realize like how long everything is.
Yeah, some people do. Some people, hit their 30s and they'll still walk in on whatever it is you're doing and assume that they're so important that they can interrupt anything you're doing. That what they have to say. Yeah. I discussed that in the yes, stunted as fuck. I talked about that last stream. It was just like funny to me about some of those issues. But wait, where's the stream here? Right,
I gotta peace out though.
Oh no, do your thing. Peace out. Peace out. Do your thing.
Peace out.
Later.
Yeah, let's.
Hey, Magenta. So since we're kind of moving away from some of the more depressing subjects, what do you think about this idea, this sort of white-pilled view or interpretation of separating anomalous forms of cognition and the negative symptoms and how those are connected, but separating those two as different entities?
I honestly don't know. Like, is too intellectual for this evening.
Oh, it's okay. You're just tired as fuck. You're like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. It's all good, dude. Because normally you're down. I know you're normally down for these fucking super complex theoretical conversations, but you're probably tired as fuck or something, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah, this week's been a bit crap as well because like my washing machine broke, so like I've had to buy a new one. Well, not buy a new one, but my landlord has sorted a new one out, so it's just like I've had to do lots of phone calling and things, and then I've had like work and things.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Let's keep it light because honestly, it got a little too heavy, and I'm only gonna do this probably for another 20 minutes. You're like, this wasn't what I signed up for. I know. It's because
we're just lurking.
No, but that's the issue with like this. That's why I'm gonna just start calling it. This is gonna be the new fucking stream's name. It's gonna be the what did I call it? I even forgot. Let me see here. I gotta keep it consistent because I keep getting bored with the names of the streams, so I keep trying to change it. But I like this name, the Schizoid Angst Cluster A Variety Hour. Even though it's going to go for over an hour most of the time, maybe 2. But I think that's just funnier because it's an hour, but it's much more than an hour usually. But I want to. What's weird about it is that the reason I want to call it like a variety hour is because it'll go from super deep into highbrow subjects to talking about fart jokes. So and I'm totally fine with that. I kind of like that. Taito, I have to dip. Thank you guys for streaming. I've been debating on joining the Discord eventually. Oh, wait, well, Taito, also remember, and everybody else that's listening that enjoys it, that hasn't, I have a Patreon, so help me out on there so I can do this more, spend more time doing this shit, and I can convince people around me and the world around me that this is worthwhile. Also, if you don't like the Patreon, do PayPal. If you don't like that, I got Bitcoin BTC address right there. You can send me some BTC if you prefer. Send it now that it took a shit. So maybe it'll turn into more money later. But in any case, yeah, I like that the stream itself goes in whatever fucking direction it goes. Like I didn't come into the stream thinking, oh, I'm gonna talk about some heavy shit. You get me? Like it just goes. It just goes where it goes. Usually, if I want things to get lighter, I try to find stuff on the Reddit. Which is probably what I'm going to do. And I'm going to see if I can find anything entertaining on there. I think it's up, right? It's visible. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's up. Yeah, okay, cool. So let's fuck around. Unless some... Oh, and if anybody on the stream, any garden hermits out there, I'm probably going to stream for another couple minutes. If you want to join in, hop on in, say what's up. If you have anything to say on the chat or ideas for something or a question you have for me, drop it, man. I don't give a fuck. Like I like questions. It keeps me going. It keeps me entertained. This is for my entertainment as well as yours. Whatever bullshit it is that I'm doing right here helps me pass the time. All right, so I'm gonna be looking at this Reddit real quick and see here. Here we go. Doomer on r/Schizoid by Schizoid Design. I would like to ask some questions regarding this concept of doomers. Are you a doomer? Are you diagnosed schizoid? If you are a doomer, do you want to point out in a rational way what makes you think that for discussion purposes? First answer here, I am a doomer, not diagnosed. After traveling the world in the Marines and as a private contractor, plus reading, learning, and observing, it's easy to see that the collapse of modern civilization is inevitable. Even famed scientists like Stephen Hawking said and believed it was extremely possible humanity wipes out most of not close to by 2100. We have and are continuing to destroy this planet. We refuse to come together, blah, 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 blah. All right. What? Avoid it, hypothetically. Okay, so when I think doomer, I think it is... I know, right? I don't want to get into, like, nitty-gritty of stuff. Like I said, last thing I need is for the stream to get more depressing. When I think of somebody that's a doomer, it's more of a meme in my mind. But it usually refers to somebody that kind of has, in my opinion, a bias in the way in which they are accepting and reading information, in the sense that, like, the doomer tends to have this this accelerationist sort of confirmation bias they seem to want to fill. A lot of the times I think it's fueled by personal resentments and personal issues that make you go toward those kind of dystopian perspectives of humanity's future. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, and there's plenty of shit that's going to go wrong, and absolutely a dystopia or an apocalypse is definitely a situation that could happen in the next 100 years or more. And statistically, it's probably going to occur at some point, but hopefully by then we have additional planets we've conquered, so that even if we lose one, we got other ones, right? To perpetuate what is known as humankind. But when I think a lot of the time somebody that feels like a doomer, and I always joke around that I'm pretty doomer because I am pretty cynical and I'm pretty jaded about a lot of stuff. I still still have some hope that things will go in some interesting directions. I don't know that necessarily we won't enter another dark age. That's a possibility, but I don't see it as a reason to necessarily lead your life in a negative and like resentful fashion. I think part of it could be that you just have to accept the possibility that humans are stupid and terrible and will eventually destroy themselves. Regardless of your intention, regardless of how much effort you put in, regardless of what sort of system of government or state that you believe in, regardless of if your ideological position, if you have one, most Zoids I've discovered usually don't, it succeeds. Regardless of all that, there's still a distinct possibility that it'll all go to shit. And so, because of that, I think it's better not to ruminate on that possibility to the point where it becomes self-destructive and depresses or agonizes the individual, right? So, the way I stave off, I guess, doomerism, I am a boomer, but I try not to be a doomer. I like how I'm losing all my fucking viewers because they're like, "Fuck you, I'm a doomer." That shit's funny. If somebody identifies as a doomer, you're identifying as a meme, but that's cool. So I think that there's a way to accept that possibility, combat it even if you feel the need to, because there's a lot of doomers out there that are pretty much grillers all at once. And still not let it get to you on a personal level to the point where you can't live whatever life you have. And I also don't agree, but it's everyone handles it differently, so I'm not going to talk shit. I also don't agree that the best method to do this is to disconnect from, say, world politics or news or information. It's not so much about disconnecting from that. I think it has more to do with disconnecting your personal issues and resentments with those topics, right? I think it's more about disconnecting your own psychological issues with the topic of possible dystopia, possible apocalypses, possible horrible scenarios for the humankind in the future, based on whatever patterns or trends you've discovered or come across. Because like I said, it's a confirmation bias situation. Because what ends up happening is you start eyeballing and gravitating toward news articles and videos that talk more about these kind of dystopian things, which in turn kind of create this cycle, right? This reinforcement of these ideas, right? And you end up not watching the videos or reading the articles that might have a perspective that counters that narrative. Because that's not what you're gravitating toward, because you almost like predispose yourself to believing that everything's going to be doom and gloom, right? So that's how I think. When I think of a doomer, I think of somebody that has personal issues. Because I was a doomer too. I'll tell you that. I was more of a doomer even months ago compared to now, but definitely years ago. I was like one of those crazy kind of sort of accelerationist doomers, right? And as my personal life began to kind of make more sense and things like that, and I started to see the connections between my own resentments and the way I was perceiving the world, I started realizing that there are other solutions. There are other ways of seeing these negative situations that are perhaps more realistic and less depressing. And honestly, there's still plenty that is very depressing and very heavy. But the way to combat those realities that are difficult to accept, you can accept them via humor, even if it's nihilistic, I guess, humor, some might call it. I find it to be a very good source, a good catharsis of sorts. To laugh in the face of sardonically smirk or laugh in the face of doom, and an eventual end. Right. So you could either be the person that panics and freaks out when they meet their end. You could be the person that welcomes it, or you could be the person that just laughs at the absurdity of it. And I'm more in that camp. I am more of the type that would laugh sardonically at the absurdity of the situation before it takes me, along with everybody else. And that's all you can. I think that is probably one of the healthiest routes you can take. Denial is unhealthy of it. Acceptance is just, it's just a different form of suicidal ideation. It's just a more like cosmic form of suicidal ideation, right? But it stems from your own personal ideation, right? Your own personal feelings regarding the end of your existence and how you want it to come about. Right, and all you're doing is extending it toward your, toward the resentments you have for the external world. That's all you're doing. In my opinion, could be wrong, but to laugh at it, but then still work toward improving things, I think is a really good way to look at it. I don't know if you guys are weebs or whatever out there. It kind of reminds me of, if you are a weeb, you know what I'm talking about. It reminds me of the anime characters that, like, when faced with a dire situation in which, say, the world's going to end or humanity is going to be destroyed or some shit, right? When they're at they've done everything they could, right? They've done everything they could to save the world or whatever. And these are usually some of the characters I enjoy. They've done everything they could, and all they can do as they see it burn or explode or about to, before, you know, some magical plot device saves everything or something, is they smile or they laugh or they smirk and they go, "Well, shit, I tried my best. I did what I could. Nobody can say otherwise. See you later." That's all, folks. I think that is probably one of the best approaches. But not before you fight tooth and nail to avoid such a scenario. It's only when you've exhausted all resources and your body is broken and your mind is broken and your stamina is at its lowest that you can then smile and laugh. And just let it consume you, because there's nothing you can do at that point. So I find such situations funny, and I guess one of the more common tropes or the common characters in the weeb world would of course be, you know, fucking Goku or something from the Dragon Ball Z universe. To every single time that character, everything's going to shit, things are getting worse. It's getting to a point where that's it, we're fucked. Dude always smiles and says, "Well, shit, that was a good fight. I tried my best. I did everything I could. All I can do is lay here and kind of just chuckle to myself as all my bones are broken and my internal organs are exploding and my brain, like, and I'm bleeding out." So, I don't know. Maybe that's not a good take. I don't know. But that's how I think is how one should handle such things. With a smile and a chuckle. What do you guys think? Bone Cone. I sometimes think the doomer way of thinking is a way of reducing anxiety and avoiding disappointment, but I think it can be taken too far. Dark humor is perhaps a nice balance. Yeah, that's how I see it too, Bone Cone. I think that dark humor and sardonic kind of positioning is a good way to cope, because it still doesn't get in the way so much that you can't do something about it. But it doesn't consume you entirely, but it's also a little more realistic about a situation that may be dire or difficult. So yes, absolutely, Bone Cone. I think dark humor, gallows humor, is probably one of the best approaches possible to a difficult situation. And what's interesting too is that something like gallows humor is pretty normal within like human behavior. It's a pretty normal thing for individuals, especially that work in fields that are very traumatic or difficult. So like if you're, say, a surgeon, or you're a a homicide detective or something like that, a lot of those people use gallows humor because if they don't, they'll lose their minds. They won't be able to cope with the situation. Seeing dead bodies, murdered people, and all kinds of horrible, fucking disgusting things. If you think looking at shit on the news and seeing how social and cultural trends and so on and so forth that you think are going to be the end of Western civilization as you know it, like if you think that's enough to make you feel like a fucking doomer, try just being a homicide detective in like an urban environment and seeing the shit they see and experience the shit they experience. That man, I can't blame those people going full fucking doomer, right? But a lot of the reason they can cope with that stuff is they disconnect from it, and they also use gallows humor and things like that, and all they can do is laugh at the depravity that is human life oftentimes, and human action. Let's see here. Says, I find the comparison not perfect. Usually in fiction, the threat to the world is some external element. But for a doomer, the world itself is both the victim and the perpetrator of the destruction. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But in fiction, there's also that. In fiction, that happens all the time too, because there's a lot of situations in which the hero or the protagonist of the story is combating or dealing with something that was manufactured or created by man. Regardless of it being external, a human villain is still a human being that grew up in a human society and developed because of whatever issues existed within humanity that made him go in those or guided him toward directions that made him create the weapon or the thing or the scenario that is now world ending, whether it's something like corporate greed like Resident Evil, right, or Umbrella Corporation type situations, or if you're talking about the raising of a new god via like some eldritch fucking summoning system that was fueled by that person's insecurities or need to transcend humanity for whatever fucking personal reason they had, right? It's still something that's coming internally. It's still something that's coming from humanity itself. It is both a victim and a perpetrator of its destruction, right? It's similar. It's just a meta version of the cycles of the human condition. The idea that, say, somebody that's a murderer, right, that endured a variety of trauma and issues when they were younger, doesn't justify all the suffering they endured, but they are still both a victim and a perpetrator of destruction, right? And I think there are plenty of fictional scenarios in which that is the case. I think there are plenty of fictional scenarios where that is absolutely the case every time. I can't really think of too many scenarios where it's not, unless it's like an otherworldly threat or some other kind of science fiction type situation. But usually that otherworldly threat oftentimes appears because of an action perpetrated by a human being that had some not so great ambitions or motives. And which is always really funny to me, because like when people argue this idea of man-made items, man-made problems, if man didn't exist, nature would find a way, nature this, nature that. And if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, we are nature, and any action we take, the very creation and manufacturing of nuclear weapons is a natural occurrence. It is a natural occurrence. If you want to talk evolution and evolutionary psychology, it's a natural occurrence of all those adaptive features and genetic, evolutionary evolution. Fuck, I'm so tired now. I actually gotta shut this down. But the things that were selected via evolution over time within human beings, behavior and such, that through that natural process, eventually led to the creation of specific weapons or things or that which is considered to be an abomination toward nature itself, is nature. So I just find it really, really funny. I kind of find it kind of paradox to call anything not nature. Anything that man creates, in my point of view, is nature. It's not good necessarily. So I don't think conflating something natural with being something good or better is a fallacy. I think it's all nature. It's all nature and it's all not all at once. It's like a singularity that you can kind of really argue. Because if it's produced by the human brain, it's produced by a natural process. Right? Even if, like, say humanity eventually alters its own genetic code in order to live twice as long and to, you know, or starts changing itself in a mechanical fashion via cybernetics or some shit, right? That's still nature. That's still nature, in my opinion. All of it. All of it. Now it's just a matter of what direction we decide to take all this in. Alright, guys. It's already going to hit the 2-hour mark. I enjoyed, if it already didn't, I enjoyed this. Thanks a lot for anybody that stuck around. Please, for the love of fucking God, if you like what I talk about, if you think this idea, this project, this especially the stuff I was talking about earlier, what I kind of want to work toward and strive toward, if you think it's important, if you think it's valid, and you have a few bucks, please help me on Patreon. Please help me on PayPal or Bitcoin or whatever the fuck works for you. If you're spending money on fucking other stupid shit that, like, I used to spend money on, like, you know, fucking, I don't know, like hentai mags and another fucking overrated RPG, or a PC title on Steam that's on sale that you're probably never going to play, but you want to get it because it's half off, and somehow buying it gives you a little dopamine. Try getting a little dopamine from helping me out, and, you know, that kind of shit. Maybe I could provide you some dopamine. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it. If listening to me in this channel has given you a little bit of dopamine or made you feel a little bit better about your existence, then please donate, and I'd appreciate it. I guess that's what I'm selling. I'm selling you slight improvements to your existence via hearing other people that may relate to you have conversations. If that's good enough for something, then cool. Or if you like the server and hate the channel, that's fine too. Alright guys, thanks a lot. Have yourself an awesome day. Or don't. Or, you know, fuck you. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life.